So the main thing that we need to do is make sure that everything that we plan for 1.6 is feature ready by the end of this week. Shweta and her team moved all of the items to the backlog, and hopefully we have moved those items we're planning on doing by setting the release to 1.6. There's 3 items that are tagged this way, or maybe 4. And if anyone has an item that is not on this list, please let me know, and we will tag it and we will add it to this discussion. So my big item for this release has been the multiple control planes. I've been trying to get that working in all of the subcommands. So there's a pull out right now that needs approval, which is for the refactoring of the new command pre-check and also the multiple control plane support that it will need. So previously we've used Istio verify install, both to verify that an install happened and to verify that a cluster is capable of being installed upon. Pre-check does this. I hope someone looks at this and gives me some feedback on that so we can get that merged. The troubleshooting commands all have the revision option, and the install commands all have the set revision option. There is not, and probably will not be in 1.6, automatically inferring the revision. So if you're on a canary, you may have to say -- revision canary for the troubleshooting commands, but we no trouble finding the canary control plane and asking it about authorization and things. So I just mentioned my item out of order. I wanted to mention Steve's item, pinning the pre-check and the verify installed Kubernetes version. This might be controversial, so I wanted to walk people sort of through it. When you ask if Istio is capable of running on a cluster, we have a label that sort of says if it's below Kubernetes 1.3, issue a warning. Steve, can you tell us what you think the behavior should be?
So it's really challenging. And the reason is because so first of all, our docs state that we should support 3 releases. If you look at somewhere in their args.yaml, I think it says 1.6 to 1.8, 1.678, yes, I think is what it says today.
So the documentation says it supports these 3 versions.
Preliminary, oh, okay, that needs to be updated. So, and this is going to be, this is why we have a challenge, because we're going to have that extra version in there that is basically makes it 4 versions. We've had this problem in the past. I don't know how we solved it. We do want to have just 3 versions. I think we should look back. I'll probably take a look back at how we solved this problem specifically, because I think the way we solved it was we had a 9-month release cycle. But I could be mistaken. But I know we've had this problem in the past. I know you remember the 9-month release cycle, don't you, Ed? That was fun. That's glorious. But yeah, I'm not sure what to do with the versions. I know 1.6, all of those versions should go up by 1 in the docs on preliminary. You know that.
I can make a doc item for the versions. Do we think that the versions should be 1.5, 1.6, and 1.7?
So I think there's some debate about having 1.8 in there because 1.8 is live. So
has Istio been tested with 1.8, and does it work?
No, it hasn't. Well, it's manual testing. When we've had this problem in the past, we did manual testing as well, and that was suitable for people. So I don't think anything's changed there. I think we're in good shape there.
Do we want
to just require a little?
And so you think we should warn people that we've never tested with 1.8, so proceed at your own risk? What should we warn people?
Generally, I think.
Yeah, I think this is something we ask Eric to take on. So I I don't think he's here, but last time when we discussed this in TOC, I think it's desirable that we could support 18. The main issue is testing. Do we have enough people to do the testing? So Eric has been learning the qualification process and the automation around it, around how do we qualify a new Kubernetes release. I think he got the automation scripts running. So, and we have 118 in our cloud. So if we have using the remainder of the time be able to run the qualification test, we should be able to add 118 on there, assuming there's no other issue found, or we can resolve the issues in time.
So if I tried to install Istio on, say, Kubernetes 1.9 and got a message, I would want it to sort of tell me why it couldn't install. Should I be asking the doc people to write that up, or who? I want the message to, if we approve Stephen's PR, to have a top version pin, there should be an error message associated with using an untested version. And it should take people to an explanation page or such, should it not?
So I kind of copied the implementation, the way the output comes from kubadmin. Kubadmin does a really nice job on the pre-checks. In fact, I think Istio Cuddle looks a lot like kubadmin. Maybe we just independently came up with the same great ideas, but it does not do such a thing. Instead, it says you are using an untested version, proceed at your own risk. It doesn't block them from doing an install. It just warns them. I guess the question is, if we had a way to test that, if it was in the checks with 118, then would we need that warning? That's the question that I have in my mind. Then the question would be, do we warn on 1.9? I think yes, we would warn on 1.9 in that condition.
Did you say 1.9 or 1.9?
1.9. I just dropped off the 1 dot, so
Okay.
19.
So I remember some of the older version, we definitely know we couldn't support it because they don't support like mutating and validating webhooks. So those, it makes sense just to, even stop people because we know if it doesn't work. I forgot which exact version it is that's added the webhook minimum requirement we need.
Our pin is 13 currently.
13. Okay, yeah. So for those older version, it doesn't make sense to even allow people to install if we know for sure it doesn't work. But for the ones that we haven't had time to validate because it was so new, I think the most we can do is the warning. We don't want to stop people from installing because it could be working. It's just we didn't have bandwidth to finish testing them.
Just to be clear, the current PR under discussion, the bottom pin and the top pin are advisory. They do not force, or they do not stop the user from installing. They just say, we really haven't tested this very well. Or actually, maybe the bottom pin says we haven't tested this, and we have, and we know it doesn't work. So maybe I'll have to change PR around a little bit, treat the bottom pin and top pin differently.
The current PR is for verify install. Does it also work for apply?
No, I guess I expect that people would do a verify install before they do an apply. I see, so Ed, I see install as one big command. In my mind, you do an install and everything happens like magic. There shouldn't be separate commands. I know we have separate commands, so that's the reality we're living in right now. Maybe that's the wrong viewpoint, but I think that's the viewpoint that every installation tool in the marketplace takes.
There was a proposal to make apply first do the pre-check, so that makes sense. We could easily add that feature today. So figure out how we can make it happen. It's easy, the code's all there. It's just linking them up, right? Do we want there to be an option for apply to first do the pre-check? And if so, is there an option to skip it?
All right, makes sense. It's straightforward. The question is what to do with the top pin. Remove it, keep it, add CI.
So I like your idea of copying the messages from kubeadmin and having almost identical messages. The apply has a force option that's used if the user screws up his set options, and the force option should apply to anything that we do with checking as well.
Okay, that's different than kubeadmin a little bit. kubeadmin uses skip pre-flight checks. So
we could make a new option if you think that's the right one.
it could be a challenge, but I think that's the right option.
Okay. Like I said, it's just a few lines of code, and we could do it, and then that would cause people to, you know, during testing, discover this and complain about the docs, and maybe we could fix them. I don't think anyone from docs is on this UX meetings.
That's a good point. So I guess a question for Eric to answer, and he's not here, is which versions are going to be the pens? Because that goes into a makefile in theory versus where it is now hard-coded in the code. So it's in one place.
Well, we think it works with 1.8, so I think it would be a mistake for us to say that 1.18 is untested. Maybe we can say it's uncertified, or we could maybe, I don't know, skip it.
I think it'd be cool to figure out how to add CI to the thing, but I don't know if that's feasible.
Well, I want everything to be done this week, right? So that we can spend the last week doing bug fixes. So there's one other item, I guess. Jason, can you talk about this one?
Yeah. So basically, the initial support, I have a PR there to support initially on the multi-version in our configurations, internal configurations. So the next step is basically provide this conversion mechanism in the in Istio to support CRD conversion within a CRD. So yeah, so still targeting end of this week for this feature to be merged in.
Will this feature have any documentation impact?
Right now, I don't think so, because for this release, we don't have a new version for any of the CRD. So I guess what we'll do is we probably will. I guess we can promote better to people to say that they can use the networking V1 Beta 1 API instead of V1 Alpha 3. So I think that's if there's any documentation for this, that will probably be it. And then, I think I see most impact on documentation in 1.7, where we could potentially start to evolve our APIs, and then having changes in APIs. For example, like V1 Beta 2 or V1 Beta 3. Yeah.
So the only impact for 1.6 is going to be that you'll be able to use V1 Beta 1 instead of V1 Alpha 3 in networking.
So, yeah, today people can actually use it, but we only mention it in just the reference doc, and we didn't have a blog post about it. And our solution to that in 1.5 was a kind of a hacky way to just convert V1 Alpha 3 to V1 Beta 1, or vice versa, like V1 Beta 1 to V1 Alpha 3. So I guess in this 1.6, we can have more like a more public blog post to say that V1 Beta 1 networking is available to use. I'm not sure where that will go, because I will have to talk to the networking group to see their opinions about it.
Hey Jason, are we supporting V1 Alpha 3 networking resources in 1.6?
Yeah, both are supported.
Okay, I thought on Friday in the TOC meeting, well, I have to admit our deprecation policy is never clear, but I thought someone said because the fact in 1.5, so in 1.5, did we ever deprecate the v1 alpha 3 networking configuration? Okay, that's why we continue.
We had both. So we don't have a deprecation policy. That's on the to-do list for this working group to have a deprecation policy. But I think until then, we'll keep all the versions available to people.
Okay, so it's the authentication policy that we deprecated in 1.5 for alpha, so that it would not be supported in 1.6. Okay, that makes sense.
So if we plan to remove v1 alpha 3 and we consider it deprecated, we need the analyzer to flag it as being deprecated so that people during the 1.6 period know to change it to v1 beta 1.
I don't think we plan to deprecate v1 alpha 3 in 1.6 either. So in 1.6, people can still use both versions, but we just kind of encourage people or say people you can like users you can use v1 beta 1 for now, just for better confidence on our APIs.
At what point do we want to start telling people when they do Istio Cuddle Analyze, hey, start using v1 beta 1? 1.7? You can't remove it alpha 3 until 1.8.
What do you mean, like?
When do we plan to remove v1 alpha 3?
I don't think we have a clear answer for that yet. We have to have a clear deprecation policy published to the user for overall Istio versions, for all Istio APIs, and agreed upon, and then at that time we can say, oh, we are able to deprecate v1 alpha 3 at a certain version of Istio.
So I know we removed some authentication stuff in 1.6. I see the stuff leaving. Have we tested the analyzer for these things? I haven't looked at those PRs in detail. Do the analyzers say these things are deprecated or that they're gone or they're non-Istio?
I think we have a CRD deprecation analyzer for v1 alpha 1 authentication policy, but I don't remember what was the message.
It would be good if it no longer said it's deprecated, but if it said it's gone or something.
Yes, I think, well, in 1.6, we no longer accept the CRDs, right? So,
definitely I or someone need to test that.
Yeah, I do see there's a tracking bug for that effort. I can add analyzer test to that bug, so we can keep track of that.
Make sure that in 1.6, if you have any of these things, it says something like this is not even deprecated, it's gone, or something. It's recognized resource type or something.
Yeah, I think that's the only the mesh policy and policy are the only CRDs that we remove in 1.6.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. So report back on the status of that. So that concludes the 1.6 items. Is anyone working on anything for 1.6 that is not on this, but they plan to have done by the week?
And I don't know, I don't see the status stuff on this list. Sorry, I joined a couple minutes late. I am driving to get that done by Friday. It is not finished yet. But it is on our status spreadsheet, so.
Okay, just mark the issues as being targeted at 1.6 so Shweta can see them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to jump backwards off the agenda and mention the docs under review. The UX for multiple planes never got past review, but we implemented it anyway. The pre-check, I approved it, and then I implemented it. And I've been testing it, and it's working great. Someone needs to merge the PR, but otherwise it's good. The recording of the Istio config in the control plane was implemented without approval, and we're still, eventually we'll have Stephen come talk about on this. Do we have any other docs that we think are under review? If so, add them here. So because the status update stuff is not quite done, Mitch is not going to demo it, although I used it a few last week and it worked great. So Shweta has some important items about the process of everything. Shweta, can you give us your reminder items?
Yeah, sure. So first thing is about the interns help wanted and the help wanted labels. A couple of working groups, TOC, and in the working group leads meeting, we have 81 interns joining, and we are looking for any bugs which need fix, any features you may think will be helpful for the interns. Please label them so that we can get a meaningful help from the interns and they feel connected. You will see them coming up in Slack, asking questions. A lot of PR come up for reviews. So for that, it's a heads up.
This says interns help wanted. Is that the same as community help wanted, or is it different?
Label, which was decided in the TOC. There was another label called help wanted. I looked at the help wanted. There were 53 bugs connected. The only question is there may be bugs which are maybe too complicated for the interns. So it was advised to create a new label, interns help wanted. That's the new one, and associate that with the bugs where you think interns can be helpful.
All right, so I will go through and add this to all the community ones and all the easy ones.
Okay.
I'm going to also ask people who are doing PRs not to do the easiest stuff if it's not high priority. Let's leave some easy items for the interns. Meaning I want the people who are not interns to work on the hard stuff, if that's possible. That's just me rallying the troops. You are still allowed to work on the easy ones if you want. So tell us about release planning, which I haven't done yet.
No worries. You have, I think you have provided 5/15 as the date to present at the TOC. So maybe in your next meeting, we have only 2 weeks before you present. So start thinking about your roadmap, what you want to have in 1.7. Start jotting them out, finding the owner issues. It's a lot of work for the planning. So if you have time, maybe you can use the rest of your time for the planning. So just a reminder. And the third item is about the internal dev testing coming up on 23rd April. We do not have a for all the test cases which we are looking for. So please add them once you have time, even today, add the priority and sign up for the testing day. We have only 4% signed up right now, and that's not the good coverage for the testing day. That's all.
Yes, and I didn't sign up for stuff, so I apologize. I tested a lot of stuff last time, and I intend to test a lot of tricky stuff this time. Question about the testing. Are there new rows for the canarying stuff? Because there weren't any last time. We add new documentation for how to do a canary. I thought we were kind of soft launching that canary thing, and there wasn't a lot of stuff about it.
Can check. However, what we have done is we have done the review of if there are any new items which are missing in the test cases, and they were quite. So Jacob has done that revision, and he has updated the sheet. I will go back and check. I really do not recall at the top of my head if it is available or not. So if you can add that as an action item.
I want the people on this call
have to drop off. So bye-bye.
So I'm hoping that the people on this call who know about canarying and who know about user experience sign up for some community testing of all of the Istio Cuddle features that have revision in them, installation and the troubleshooting commands, and then actually try them. I have, because I implemented the revision commands, tried to do like hard stuff, you know, like put weird values in the labels and stuff, non-ASCII codes, or try to upgrade anything different. But please try to test these features because it's sort of a major key of 1.6, and it's going to be a lot of other stuff is going to be based on this. We don't want to screw up and have a revision not working with anything. So we're halfway through, and because we didn't have a demo, we have a little extra time. So I think we should take Shweta at her word and take a look at figuring out what we intend to deliver for 1.7. So just humor me for a second while I start up ZenHub. So we'll ignore the 1.7 stuff because I'll find that, but we have this sort of nebulous future and backlog. And let's take a look at what we have for user experience in both of those areas and see if any of them are obvious candidates for 1.7. Here we see this one. So first, I apologize if you guys are getting bored, but I'm going to make it fun, I hope. Istio support stateful set has been sticking around as a new issue for at least a year. I think it's because I thought the networking people, it was their job 100%. Maybe they thought it was mine. Does anyone have any opinions on this? I'm going to take user experience off of it so that they just have to do it. Okay, so the P1 items we have in the nebulous future are supporting the one for Istio Cuddle, which obviously is not going to be an issue anymore, and I think we should just close it. Istio upgrade customized config maps. I know nothing about this one. It's Mandar's thing. It's in a bunch of groups. All right. Unless anybody has a strong opinion, I'm going to figure out what to do with that. Pods get policies when talking to their own pod IP. That seems almost completely networking. I'm going to remove UX from that unless anyone objects. All right, and let's take a look at the other tag. Backlog. Manifest apply not working as expected. Order matters in an unexpected way. Does anybody, so this is an environments thing. It's in both because it affects how we do it. This one should go 1.7 to make it work. No. Everyone's on mute. Okay. The P1 items in the back, getting a tornado warning here. If you start seeing me out my window, don't worry about it. It's not a problem with Zoom. Your computer's fine. I'm umbrella issue for multiple control planes. We've sort of done that one. Pod annotation. Is this a UX item? First off, does anybody believe this is? The claim is that KubeInject is not working.
Yeah, that does sound like a UX item.
Okay. Does anyone want to take it? And should it be in 1.7?
Just to back up a little bit, do we have an overall theme for what we want to work on?
I don't think we have one. I think it's going to be making Canary really work. I have this fear that Canary is going to kind of work in 1.6. In 1.7, it's going to be smooth. And also, I know that I want to get support for external control plane and multi-cluster working. My team wants it to be possible that Istio Cuddle's troubleshooting stuff has no need to exec into the pods. So it's a big security thing. That's going to be another feature. So let me add those bullet points right now, actually.
So just to that point, I think, yeah, that's definitely a big area. And then we had that the troubleshooting API being around for a while. Now we are looking at this deeply. Does it mean like because I know Romain will like started the conversation, but I guess which team will own the implementation of it?
So
Yeah,
the
the outcome of that conversation was just that there's no one to run it right now. I think if we run with it, then we'll own it.
So I talked about it a bit with Sven. We all agree we need it. I talked about it with Stephen Dake, and maybe we can have some hacks to make it work until it's ready. So we have couple pieces. One is we have to agree on the API and get the protobufs and all that defined. And then it has to work with multiple control plane and a remote control plane with multi-cluster. And the big problem, of course, is sharding, right? So it's not sufficient. So the way Istio Cuddle works now is that it asks every pilot, oh, are you the pilot in charge of this pod? If so, tell me about authn policies for that pod. Or tell me if that pod has been knacking correctly its Envoy updates. Obviously, you can't do sharding without talking directly to a pod. So we need the troubleshooting API to work when there's two pilots outside the cluster, no exec into each pod, no way to count the pods. Pilots all need to either do some kind of scatter gather themselves, or there needs to be some kind of reflector that like a debug API pod that talks to the other ones to make it happen. I have some proposals for some hacky ways of doing it easily, but it would be so nice to have someone do it in sort of clean, good way, which I don't have a design for.
And have you written?
It would be great to have a design doc out. Go ahead, Mitch.
Sorry, I was asking the same question. Those hacky proposals, are they written down somewhere?
I only shared them with Stephen, but I'm happy to share them with you, and we could co-author them and talk about how we might do it.
Yeah, I'm very interested in seeing this API materialize. Also, the status feature could probably benefit from some horizontal conversation between pilot nodes. Right now, we're using config maps for it, which is itself a fairly hacky way to get around this problem. So yeah, I would love to help you out with that.
We're saying that this is going to go in for 1.7. Or is there a timeline in mind yet, or am I disrupting the conversation because of asking that?
Yeah, that is 1.7. We need some themes for 1.7 so we know which bugs to focus on in 1.7. Troubleshooting is a big one because we've been punting on it since 1.0.
Thank you. That was what I was asking.
Excellent. Do we have any other themes anything that anyone wants to bring to 1.7? Multi-cluster stuff? So I'm going to add 3 question marks here. Please comment in the Slack for things that your organization thinks are important for 1.7, and let me know if you have any time to implement them or if you just want us to.
So part of for the troubleshooting API, maybe can we probably start to think about converging Istio Analyze with that effort? So maybe the implementation can go into Istio Analyze. I guess that's a more like a overall topic instead of just talking about implementation of troubleshooting API, but maybe that's something we can look into 1.7.
It makes sense if the control plane is already analyzing things and then marking statuses on things that are bad. It makes sense that Istio could just ask the control plane about the things it's been saying, and that would reduce the size of Istio, which is right now a huge download.
There are reasons, though, that you might want to run the analyzers before applying a change to the control plane, sort of the CI scenario.
Yes. That's why we never did it. The troubleshooting API we've been using for things like is Envoy Acking. It sort of helps. Originally, it was very big because you didn't have an analyze command, so end users were expected to use these things like proxy status to see if your proxies were refusing the updates. Now that we have analyze, end users are supposed to be using analyze, and then those troubleshooting commands kind of are for us to figure out why analysis is not finding some rare problem. At least that's the way I envision them. So I use the troubleshooting commands much less than I used to do. Now usually analyzes tells me what the problem is.
It's the known versus unknown unknowns, right? That's
Exactly.
or known unknowns versus unknown unknowns.
So Liam, if you're the one who added the VM expansion for troubleshooting API, I totally agree.
Yeah. Feel free to add me to the list with Mitch as well.
Okay. So in 2 weeks, the list of things I think are there. Probably I'll start once we finish implementing all the stuff into this week. I'll write up a document listing what I think the 1.7 items are. If anybody has anything that they think is important for 1.7, let me know, or add a comment to the issue, and so that we can. And that's sort of all I have, unless anyone has anything. We can break. Mitch, you're going to demo this stuff in 2 weeks. If there's time, given that we're going to also do our roadmap in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it should be a very quick demo. You create an object, see its status.
All right, that sounds great. So thank you everyone for showing up.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.